The world is filled with mysteries, some so chilling they linger long after they are discovered. Some remain unsolved, haunting the minds of those who seek answers. Tonight, we delve deep into 5 of the most disturbing unsolved cases, stories that have baffled investigators, conspiracy theorists, and anyone who dares to listen. These are the top 5 unsolved mysteries, only on horror TV. Imagine the unthinkable. One day, you wake up to find that your entire life, your past, your body, your very existence is a lie. Your memories feel real, your heartbeat is steady, and yet the world around you insists that you should not exist. In 2018, one man experienced just that. He stumbled into a police station in a daze, his skin pallid, his hands trembling, his wide, frenzied eyes darting around as if searching for something familiar in an unfamiliar world. When the officers at the front desk asked what was wrong, he uttered words that sent a chill through the room. "I died last week." At first, the officers assumed he was either delusional or seeking attention. They offered him water, a seat, and a moment to collect himself, but his agitation only grew. He insisted that he remembered everything: his car veering off the highway, the deafening crunch of metal, the sharp burst of pain, and then, as he described it, falling into the dark. He had been dead, and yet here he was, standing before them, alive and terrified. It was when he pulled out a document that the situation took a disturbing turn. He handed them what appeared to be his own death certificate. The officers exchanged uneasy glances as they examined the paper. It was official, complete with the emblem of the local government. And it wasn't just any random name on the certificate, it was his. Every detail matched: his birth date, his home address, and even the date of death, 1 week prior. But the most chilling detail was the signature at the bottom. It was his handwriting. He had signed his own death certificate. The officers quickly checked their system for any record of the man. What they found left them speechless. According to official records, he was deceased. A fatal car accident had occurred on the very highway he described. The details were uncanny. His car had been found twisted and wrecked, a body recovered from the scene. The forensic analysis had confirmed the identity. The body belonged to him. His DNA matched. The case had been closed, a death certificate issued, and yet standing before them was the same man. Same fingerprints, same face, same voice. A man who, by all logic, should not be alive. Authorities scrambled to make sense of the impossible. Theories were thrown around. Could he have had a twin? A lost sibling? A case of mistaken identity? But none of those explanations held up. Forensic experts reviewed their reports. There was no doubt that the body recovered from the crash was his. Medical professionals were baffled, unable to explain how a man could seemingly rise from the dead. Scientists speculated on memory disorders, neurological phenomena, or even an elaborate hoax. But the man himself was adamant. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't mistaken. He had lived through his own death. And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone. The last official mention of him was his admission into a psychiatric hospital for observation. After that, no further records exist. No reports of his release, no trace of where he might have gone. It was as if he had vanished, perhaps for the second time. Was he truly a man returned from death? A glitch in reality? A supernatural phenomenon? Or something far darker? The mystery of the living dead man remains unsolved, a chilling tale that continues to haunt those who dare to investigate it. The internet can be a vast and unpredictable place, but sometimes it becomes the stage for something far darker. In 2012, a Reddit user named Religion of Peace began posting on the site with strange, paranoid claims. His posts at first seemed like the ramblings of a troubled mind. Descriptions of mysterious men in black, shadowy figures who watched his every move, cars idling outside his home at night, and a feeling of being constantly followed. At first, the online community dismissed him as delusional or seeking attention, but over time, his posts took on a disturbing tone. His paranoia escalated rapidly. At first, it was small things, shadows that seemed to stretch too far, a creaking floorboard in an empty room. But soon, the disturbances grew more sinister. He described hearing strange noises at night, soft, deliberate scratching on the roof, as if something was trying to dig its way in. Faint whispers slithered through the walls, their voices too low to make out, yet filled with unmistakable intent. As the days passed, his messages became increasingly desperate. His posts were riddled with frantic pleas, his fear practically dripping from every word. "They're watching me," one post read. "I feel them getting closer." He spoke of figures lurking just beyond his field of vision, of waking up to find his furniture slightly moved, doors left open that he was certain he'd locked. Then came his most chilling message: "If I disappear, don't believe it was an accident." Those who followed his posts couldn't tell if he was unraveling mentally or if there was truly something sinister stalking him. Some dismissed it as attention-seeking, a dark game played for sympathy. Others, however, felt an undeniable sense of dread settle over them. No one could have predicted what happened next. A few days later, the user's account posted one final cryptic message, a single word written in all caps: "Help." There was no explanation, no context, no follow-up, and after that, nothing. His account went silent. No more frantic updates, no more desperate warnings, just an eerie, unsettling absence. His usual online activity, once constant, ceased entirely. Messages from concerned followers went unanswered, their worried questions hanging in the void. At first, some believed he had simply chosen to disappear, overwhelmed by the paranoia that had consumed his final days. Others speculated that it was a hoax, a twisted game meant to keep people hooked. But as the days passed with no sign of him, unease spread. Something felt wrong. Then came the discovery. Several days after that final message, authorities found his body in a remote stretch of wilderness, deep in the woods, miles away from his home. There were no obvious trails leading there, no indication of how he had traveled such a great distance on his own. His car remained in his driveway, untouched. No one had seen him leave, but what made the discovery so chilling, what sent a wave of terror through those who had followed his story, was the condition of his body. Something was wrong, horribly, impossibly wrong. The man's head was missing, completely gone. There was no sign of a struggle or violence, yet his head had been cleanly severed, as if surgically removed. The authorities initially ruled it as a suicide, but how could someone remove their own head in such a clean manner and hide it so thoroughly? Despite extensive searches, the missing head was never found. No one could figure out how he could have done this to himself, or if he had been the victim of a sinister force. something beyond human comprehension. The chilling question remains: who or what was truly watching him? Was he being stalked by forces beyond our understanding, or was there something else at play? The story of religion, of peace, continues to haunt those who follow strange, unsolved disappearances. In the late 1980s, Soviet scientists embarked on one of the most ambitious projects of the Cold War, drilling the deepest hole in history, over 9 miles deep into the Earth's crust. The project, named the Kola Super Deep Borehole, was an effort to study the Earth's inner layers and unlock the secrets of the planet's core. But what the scientists found beneath the surface would terrify them to their core. At a depth of 7.6 miles, something went horribly wrong. The drill bit broke through into an enormous empty cavity, an underground cavern so vast that it seemed to stretch into the abyss. The team, both fascinated and alarmed, lowered a heat-resistant microphone to record any sounds that might come from the depths of the earth. But what they heard was nothing short of terrifying. Thousands of voices, wailing, screaming, a chorus of anguish rising from the abyss, as if the very souls of the damned were writhing in eternal torment beneath the earth. The sound was unnatural, inhuman. Some voices sobbed in despair, others shrieked in agony, their cries blending into an unholy cacophony that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. The scientists, their faces drained of color, exchanged panicked glances. Sweat beaded on their brows as their trembling hands fumbled with the recording equipment. No logical explanation could account for what they had just heard. The rational minds of science faltered in the face of something so profoundly terrifying. Without hesitation, they made the decision to seal the hole. The drilling stopped. The equipment was abandoned. A heavy metal cap was welded over the opening, as if to imprison whatever horrors lurked below. Some workers refused to remain on site for even a moment longer, hastily packing their belongings and disappearing into the night. Others simply stood frozen, their faces locked in expressions of sheer horror, their eyes staring into the void as if something unseen was staring back. In the days that followed, many quietly left their positions, unwilling to speak of what they had encountered. And so, the project was buried, left to be swallowed by time and forgotten by the world. But those who were there would never forget. The screams, the wailing, those sounds would haunt their nightmares for the rest of their lives. There were rumors that the government sealed the borehole quickly to prevent any further investigation, likely to avoid the spread of the unsettling information to the public. The project was officially closed, and all records related to the incident were either destroyed or classified. It is also believed that some of the scientists involved in the project were pressured or even threatened to keep quiet about what they had heard. Several of them reportedly left the scientific field altogether, too shaken to continue their work. In essence, the government's response was one of complete censorship and suppression. Any inquiries into the incident were either dismissed or met with silence, and the truth about what was heard remains hidden. As a result, conspiracy theories about the well to hell have persisted, but no further official investigations or explanations have ever been provided. To this day, the Russian government has made no public acknowledgement of the event, and the sealed borehole remains a dark, unanswered mystery. Was it a trick of the mind? An auditory hallucination brought on by the immense pressure of the Earth's layers? Or had the team unknowingly discovered the gates to hell itself? The truth of what was heard that day remains a mystery, buried deep beneath the frozen expanse of Siberia. The year was 1922, and the remote Hinterkaifeck farm, located in southern Germany, became the scene of one of the most disturbing and perplexing murder cases in history. The Gruber family's 6 members were found brutally murdered in their farmhouse, slain with a pickaxe. But it was not just the violence of the crime that left investigators rattled. It was the strange, inexplicable events leading up to the murders and the shocking aftermath that continue to haunt the case to this day. Just days before the gruesome murders, the father of the family, Andreas Gruber, noticed something strange. Footprints were found in the snow, leading to the farmhouse but disappearing after that. No footprints were found leading away from the house. The family also reported hearing strange noises in the attic, footsteps, rustling, as though someone was hiding there. Yet when they searched the attic, no one was there. Then, food began to disappear. Household items were moved. The family began to grow uneasy, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was lurking just beyond their reach. Finally, one cold March night, someone or something descended from the attic and killed every member of the Gruber family one by one. But here's the most unsettling part. The killer stayed in the house for several days after the murders. Neighbors reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney, food missing from the pantry, and the animals in the barn fed. Whoever committed the murders remained on the farmhouse, living among the dead for days before disappearing into the night without a trace. Despite these strange signs, the family didn't openly report anything unusual to the authorities. Then, when the family failed to make their regular trips to the nearby village, the neighbors grew more suspicious. They attempted to visit, but no one answered the door. The family's absence, combined with the odd circumstances around the house, prompted the neighbors to alert the authorities. When the police arrived at Hinterkaifeck, they were met with a deeply unsettling scene. In the barn, they found 4 family members: Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia, lying together, their lives taken in a violent attack. Inside the house, the maid Maria and 2-year-old Joseph were also discovered, having met the same tragic fate. Despite the eerie stillness, there were signs that someone had been living there after the incident. Food had been eaten, the animals cared for, and the fireplace recently used. The person responsible had not only taken 6 lives, but had remained at the farm for days before disappearing without a trace. Who could live among the dead, moving through the house as if nothing had happened? Who or what had lurked in the attic, watching, waiting, slipping through the shadows unnoticed? The eerie footprints in the snow, the strange noises in the night, had it been a person or something far more sinister? And when their gruesome work was done, why did they linger, tending to the farm, only to vanish without a single trace? The questions remain unanswered, lingering like a ghost over Hinterkaifeck, whispering through the trees long after the farmhouse itself was gone. In February of 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a skiing expedition through the Ural Mountains in Russia. They were led by Igor Dyatlov, a seasoned hiker with years of experience in the harsh conditions of the Russian wilderness. What should have been a routine trip turned into one of the most chilling and mysterious events in Russian history. When the hikers failed to return on schedule, a search party was sent out. The team discovered their abandoned tent, sliced open from the inside as though the hikers had fled in a panic, leaving behind their belongings, shoes, and equipment. But what they found next was even more horrifying. Some hikers were found miles from the tent, their bodies in disturbing conditions, half buried in the snow. One was missing his eyes, another his tongue, yet there were no signs of struggle, no tracks leading to or from the scene. Others had suffered massive internal injuries, as if from a car crash, yet their skin remained unbroken, their bones crushed from within. Stranger still, some of their clothes contained traces of radiation, glowing faintly under forensic analysis. The tent itself had been inexplicably slashed open from the inside, as if they had fled in terror into the freezing night, leaving behind only unanswered questions. The official cause of death was ruled as an unknown compelling force, but no one could explain what had happened. The mysterious deaths of the Dyatlov group have remained a topic of intense speculation and investigation, both in Russia and around the world. The lack of concrete answers and the strange details surrounding their deaths, especially the unexplained injuries and the presence of radiation, have fueled numerous conspiracy theories. Some believe the hikers were caught in a secret military test or attack, while others think they encountered something supernatural or inexplicable in the mountains. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most baffling and terrifying mysteries of the 20th century, and as the years pass, we may never know the full story. If you enjoyed those terrifying legends and stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more haunted stories. Until next week, sweet dreams.